Today we're going to be making this belt hook. Now this holds 3 of my belts, and I also fit 1 tie on there, and that just makes for some extra storage in my room, which I need to make some more storage. So in the future you might see some different projects on storage, but this is just one of those projects to hang my belts up, because I'm always losing them, and I go to play around a golf or go to a dinner or just wearing pants every day. I always seem to be looking for a belt. So I have my 3 belts up here and my tie just to give it a little home, and this seems to work pretty well. So now we're going to get on to building. Alright, now for this project I'm going to be using some cherry and some oak dowel. And first thing I need to do is go over to the miter saw, and I need to rough cut this to length. Alright, now in the last clip you saw me clean up this top edge here over on the router table, which I set up as a jointer. So this edge is nice and clean, and same with this edge. And I've set this up at the miter saw, and I'm going to be cutting a 35-degree angle on this side, and then I believe it's a 55-degree angle on the other side after I figure out my final dimensions. So right now I'm just going to make this, I have this piece tipped up on its side, and I'm going to be making that 35-degree miter. Here is marked out the basic area where I think this is going to be, this miter is going to be going. Now I made this a little bit oversized than what I originally thought, and that way I can trim it down a little bit if I need to, but I'm going to see if this will fit in the space that I need it to fit. If it doesn't, I can always take more off. So first of all, I'm going to make this cut right here so that it will fit into the corner like that. As I suspected, this piece is just a little bit too long, so I'm going to trim a little bit off and then test it again. After a few more attempts, I finally got this piece to fit. It took a while, but after just nibbling down at it, I finally got it to fit just how I like it, and that's pretty much it. So next thing we need to do, well, that's pretty much it with the angles. The next thing we need to do is make some little pegs out of this dowel in order to put in here to hold my belts. Alright, so what I've done is I've taken my pieces and I've marked the locations where I want these pieces of dowel to go for the belts. And what I did with this is I basically put this up against the wall, placed my belts on here, and spaced them out evenly so that it looked good while it was hanging on the wall. If I spaced these out so that they were even through the whole length of the board, it wouldn't have, the belts wouldn't have fit on here right, so I held this against the wall and marked the best locations for these holes. And what I've done here is I've set up my fence in my drill press table. If you want to build this drill press table, I'm going to try to put a link on the screen. So click on that and go to this video. And I'm going to try to also make it so that it will pause this video and open in a new window. And so basically what we're going to do now is just drill out these holes, which I've center punched. Alright, now if you really wanted to, you could pretty much glue these pegs in and leave it off there. But I'm going to go a step further to make it look a little bit better. Now, I haven't yet glued these in, so I'm going to do that a little bit later. But what I'm going to do now is just make a little decorative end piece here. Now, I don't have a lathe, so I'm not going to turn anything. What I think I'm going to do is make like a little square and glue it on there, or a little circle, whatever looks better. And so I'm going to take you through that process next. Now, what I did off camera is, you saw me resaw this piece of cherry, and what I did then is I cut out these little squares, and what I'm going to do now is I put these on there, and they didn't really look right square, so I think I'm going to round them off. They're just going to be a little bit bigger than the dowel. So to round them off, I've set up this 2x4 with a little nail sticking out of it, and I put a little hole in this side, and then I'm just going to run this around and get a nice circle. Alright, and I made those little circles, and what I did to them is I drilled out a little hole at the bottom. This is 3/8 of an inch, I believe, and that fits on the dowel nice and snug, and it also just covers up the end portions of that dowel that you could see if I just were to glue these on. So what I've been doing is I've just been sanding this down with 600 grit paper, and after I sand this block down, I'm going to glue these in, and then I'll just do a final sanding after it's all assembled. Alright, now at the moment I'm just holding this in here, but I've got all of these pegs in here dry, and I put it up in the corner where it's going to go, and I put my belts on it just so I can get a feel for how it's going to look once it's all done. Now, right now it looks pretty good, so I think I'm pretty much going to leave it off there. I just need to put a finish on it and then figure out how I'm going to mount it in this corner here. So that's what I'm going to do next. Alright, so I've set this up outside. I don't have my workbench out right now, the outdoor one that's way in the corner, so I'm just going to do it on here. And I'm just going to use some spray lacquer. Alright, now I finally got the belt hook done, and this took quite a while to figure out how I was going to mount this, but in the end what I did was just made a little triangle that's not a really good picture, but I made a little triangle that fit in there with the correct angles, and then I put a pocket hole into the wall over here, or I put a pocket hole this way so I could screw into this wall, and that seems to hold it pretty tight, and it was a pretty tight fit, so that tight fit also helps hold it there. Alright, and this is kind of a bad angle, but under here you can see that little piece of wood, and you can see where I drilled the pocket hole, and I don't even have a pocket hole jig. I just made a little jig out of a piece of wood, and that allowed me to drill this hole, and now this stays in here nice and tight, so it's not going to move anywhere for quite a while.